these animals.
Well, I do agree that wiping out the elephants and the whales is abhorrent, but then they just get everybody upset with Animal Planet and then turn loose the local animal police on you, who come and, take your dog and euthanize it because it's barking. I mean, there's a more sophisticated propaganda going on here.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you look at the individual cells of, dog ownership, and people have pets, and it's and the city is divided into various wardens in America. You can't compare that to the ecosystem of the globe and humanity's history on this globe. There is a symbiotic relationship between people and the environment, and you can't synthetically wedge yourself in between you and the environment with these synthetic food products and synthetic intellectual products without causing incredible species-wide dangerous situations like we're having now. Entire species are going extinct, and one of those species is called human. The human species is at risk of going extinct. The planet will continue. The planet is indifferent to our plight. But if we don't want it, if we don't want to stay on this planet, we're going to lose it, because we're just giving the corporations, as we say, the power to pollute without any accountability.
Well, more than pollution,
to make short-term profits, to pay themselves
Max, more than pollution,
to buy toys at the end of the year, Tiffany's jewelry.
Sure.
But they have no consideration for the general well-being of the population at all. It's not a factor on the balance sheet. It's not a factor in their corporate charter. It's not a factor in their annual report. They are psychopathic, out-of-control entities that are at war with the natural world. And we will not survive if you've got multi-hundred-billion-dollar corporations at war against our ecosystem.
Sure, Max, I need to put something in here, though. I agree with a lot of what you're saying. I mean, it's common sense, much of it. The issue is they are very intelligent and know that, so they've cornered the market and control the environmental movement, and the mega corporations that own the media spew a environmentaloid version of what you're saying that gives them more power to divert off into environmental solutions that don't actually fix anything, which you agreed with earlier. I mean, you understand that that's going on, but my bigger issue is not even so much pollution. I don't want to drink it. I don't want to breathe it. I know ultimately that it bioaccumulates in Homo sapiens sapien, top of the food chain, and we're getting people getting Alzheimer's at 25. I understand this is really bad, bioaccumulation of heavy metals, but the Earth can deal with that. What it can't deal with is some type of mishap, which the physicists admit could happen with a Strangelet or other things, with the Hadron Superconducting Supercollider, or with the genetic engineering. I mean, those are the areas where I've really done the study, and it's a mathematical probability that the more they do this, just open and wildly, the closer we are to not becoming a Type 1 civilization.
Okay, well, so the issue is, how do you avoid becoming like a whack-a-mole situation? Because, as you know, when you attack one of these guys, they pop up somewhere else. And what I've been saying all along is, if you go up the food chain and you find out who's funding these guys, that takes you to the banks. And then you look at the banks, and you say, well, how can we attack the banks? And that's what ended up with the crash J.P. Morgan buy silver campaign, because we analyzed the situation. We said, who's funding these New World Order corporate no good nicks? We figured out it was the banks, and there is one bank that is particularly vulnerable, J.P. Morgan, its silver position, and that resonated with people around the world. As you know, hundreds of videos have been made. People have been buying silver, and there's very little of it around. There's only maybe $20 billion worth of silver available for purchase, which is a fantastically small amount. And as my interview on this week's show said, David Morgan, for every physical ounce you take off the market, you are killing 100 paper ounces on the balance sheet of the bank. So that's my thought in terms of how to cut the head of the snake. The head of the snake, instead of playing whack-a-mole and just saying that they're doing this bad and this bad and this bad, they all come down funding from the banks. And the banks.
Well, sure, Max. I mean, I had you on the show to launch all that, but I mean, at the same time, it's good to go after big heads of the Hydra, but you've also got to wake up the general population of the wider paradigm, or you cut off one big head at J.P. Morgan Chase. If you haven't cut the heart out, it's just going to regenerate another, slathering head that you've got to deal with.
But my thought on that is what we lack are wins. What I would call a win. What I would call, a touchdown.
Yeah, but what do you call a win? We blew that fake carbon credit tax thing out of the water and proved that their whole climate change thing is a fraud. You don't believe that because I think you've invested in it. Kind of like, and none of us are perfect, you kind of believed in Obama up front. I mean, maybe, Max, I respect you and think you're a smart guy. We all have different perspectives, but maybe some of us that don't totally agree with you, maybe we got a few brain cells too.
Well, the win that I would put in the column in the last 6 months would be the TSA scandal, because clearly through public pressure, that looks like a big win.
Yeah, another torpedo we launched here on this show.
Thing is another issue, but the TSA, I would say, is definitely a win. The Obama deception, brilliant film. You're right. I gave Obama the benefit of the doubt, and it turns out that the Obama deception film that you made was dead on accurate. The guy's a total puppet of the banking system. But I guess I misspoke by saying you don't have any wins. What I'm saying is that it would be nice to take down a $150 billion corporation, a major win. Let's put it that way, a big score, because these guys are scoring heavily against us. I'd love to see us really take down a $150 billion corporation. That would give everyone so much positive energy, and it would just get so much momentum behind that. Then we can then go after some of these other guys. But if we get that big win, Alex, I think it will just energize folks so much.
Sure, I totally agree. I mean, the TSA thing is a big win because it just showed us we can stand up and say no, and that we're the majority and we have common sense. That's just one battle. We haven't won that war. I think your silver thing's a great idea, and it's got Titanic legs. And it's really scaring the system. And I think overall, a lot of positive things are starting to happen, Max. And, that's why I try to bring on the Ron Pauls and the Max Kaisers and the Jesse Venturas and countless others. And because I see so much understanding, so many different perspectives that together are moving in the right direction. It doesn't mean we're all on the exact same page, but we're certainly not part of this cold-blooded, corporate, globalist, dehumanizing Borg. We're definitely moving away from that together and then having a spirited debate on the way. And by the way, the top link on Infowars.com just went up there is Max's brand new TV show, Kaiser Report, Monsanto and the Seeds of Evil. And what is that, like a 30-minute report, Max?
26 brilliant minutes of exciting television.
Absolutely.
No, I'm not trying to belittle anyone's efforts here. I'm just saying that when I see birds falling out of the sky and thousands of fish washing up on the shore and the bee population going extinct, I'm just thinking the timeline is getting awfully close. I mean, how close do we want to cut this? Because it looks like we're down to the last
they are I'm telling you, Max, I've done the research. They are trying to cause an environmental collapse to then offer a great green tyranny on top of it, and then they believe they can remake anything in their image through the genetic engineering. I had an IBM person tell me once that there is no such thing as a genetic malfunction because humans came from the earth, and so we can do whatever we want, and then it's part of a natural mutation because we did it. I mean, we are in crisis. Everybody can feel it in their gut, see it intellectually. I'm going to come back and play a key video, The Madness of a Lost Society, Part 2. Very powerful. Max, we really appreciate you joining us. God bless you. Let me say bye to you during the break. Key new video coming up. Stay with us up on Infowars.com.
We warned you that something was wrong.
According to some estimates, we cannot track $2.3 trillion in transactions.
That investigations were needed.
Amazing, incredible, pick your word, for the third time today.
That our liberties were under attack. That the very fabric of our republic was being ripped apart.
Report suspicious activity.
And as a nation, we turned our back on our values, our principles, and our moral obligations. We allowed torture, we encouraged war, and we slept well as our nation was raped.
Will you tell the American people to whom you lent $2.2 trillion of their dollars
hundreds and hundreds of banks. Any bank or that has access to the U.S. Federal Reserve's discount.
Tell us who they are.
No.
Now, the day of reckoning is nearly upon us, and still, we warn you.
We're heading for a hyperinflationary depression.
This is the madness of a lost society. Final warnings.
Well, we're heading for hyperinflation. The hard choices should have been made years ago.
The Federal Reserve is borrowing $100 billion every 30 days.
You could cut every penny of government spending except for Social Security and Medicare, and you'd still be in deficit.
The end game is everybody has zero purchasing power currency.
Does this scare you? It ought to scare the pants off of you.
The U.S. will be defaulting on its debt in the next 5 years because the numbers are so staggering.
The world is going to go into a hyperinflationary depression everywhere.
We have to have the deficit under control now if we want to avoid a hyperinflation. It's not going to happen.
And there will be a global run to hard assets, and it has already begun.
I'm not saying this to scare you. Quite to the contrary.
The government doesn't have the ability to raise taxes to pay for its needs, so what it does is it prints money. It gives you inflation, eventually a hyperinflation. The U.S. dollar becomes worthless.
I want you to prepare and spare yourself heartache and save your dinner table. That's the only reason I'm telling you these things, not to keep you awake at night.
My contention now is that we're beyond control, we're beyond containment.
The world has never seen what they're going to see.
People ask me this, well, when is it all going to start? The question I ask you in return is, what's it going to take for you to notice it's happening?
There's nothing they can do to prevent a hyperinflation here and an ultimate economic collapse. They know it.
The elite want America to collapse. I have been told this.
They're just buying time. They're trying to push the bad news off as far as they can into the future.
Would you like to know exactly what's going to happen so that you can spare your assets?
Because the fact of the matter is, it's already unraveling.
The deficit of $4 to $5 trillion. Let's say the government wanted to resolve the issue of taxes. It could raise personal income taxes to take 100% of individual income. It could take 100% of corporate profits, and you'd still be in deficit.
If you look at the price of silver, for example, the low in silver was around $7 an ounce during the 2008 crisis. Silver recently touched $30. There is no explanation for the move in silver outside of a global move away from the dollar. And that is absolutely happening. It's happening right now.
As interest rates rise, the interest expense goes up, causing a bigger deficit, causing the government to borrow more, causing the Federal Reserve to do additional quantitative easing, further debasing the dollar and ultimately meaning higher gold and silver prices.
The dollar is going to have a severe sell-off at some point here, a panic sell-off, and along with that you're going to see a sharp spike in precious metals as they tend to preserve the purchasing power of the dollars that go into them.
The how-to stuff is actually pretty simple. You want to own energy, agriculture, and sound money.
He said, get out of anything that is paper. Now, do you realize what that means?
Unfortunately, my experience has been people won't take simple steps to protect themselves because they can't imagine the future changing as much as it's going to.
You've got to make preparations right now.
This quantitative easing, the official debasement of the U.S. dollar, is beginning to have its effect.
If you look at the amount of money that's been created over the last 5 years, to accomplish a 10% gold-backed currency, the price of gold would have to be around $10,000 an ounce.
There's nothing they can do that's going to turn this economy around. Shy of shutting down the entitlement system, there's nothing they're going to do to prevent the hyperinflation.
The madness of a lost society, the rest of it is at Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com.